Have we got any MEP guys in the room? Got any people involved in that? A little bit? Yeah. Any others?
A little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit.
All right. Well, I'll try to. I'll do some stuff, and you tell me if I'm getting off topic or not. But the conference was about the BIM MEP conference. The Australian-run thing. Does anyone know about it? No? Yeah. A few? Oh,
yeah, you told me.
I told you. Yeah. Okay. Well, these Aussies actually have got quite a good idea going, and I'll explain a little about what they do. It was at the Australian Technology Park, and I don't know if you recognise the machine or the digital readout on it, but it was actually really from the 50s, so perhaps they were trying to tell me this is where they were. I think it was a little bit further ahead than that. It's a cool place though, cool venue. So what is the BIM MEP Oz? They've got a website you can go on to. It's mostly run by industry. A2K in Australia have got a lot of involvement in it and leading it and writing the content. There's a lot of Rivet content around the MEP services, and I'll show some slides later. If you're interested, let me know. Or just contact them directly if you're interested. So you can read what they have to say about themselves. So the events are done annually, and it's hosted by the Air Conditioning and Mechanical Contractors Association, which you'll see in the picture, AMCA. It's a 2-day event, and they bring in a lot of presenters to talk about BIM in general and various other bits and pieces. Now, while I was in Australia, I went to saw some customers, and this is at the tail end. This is a manufacturer who had to make, or quote actually, on this job. And if you look at this, it's like, what the, why are they doing this? It's a PDF, right? Who's in that situation? You're generating PDFs for people to quote off. Anyone do that? Yeah?
That's what they want.
No?
That's what they want.
That's what they want, yeah. So they're going to spend 2 weeks working through this document set and quote it. I think it's a bit of a waste of time, because I actually looked at the properties of the file, and if you have a look at the details here, I challenged them. I said, go back to this person called whatever it is, Andrew something or other, and me consulting or something, I don't know what it is. Contact this person and see if you can get a Rivet model or an RAF out of them or something, so you can actually quote this automatically, and probably do it in half a day rather than 2 weeks. And they were afraid to do it. So if you're the person generating PDFs for people to quote, and someone asks you for a file, please provide them something. You're giving them the documents, why not give them the 3D models? That's the whole idea of BIM, right? Anyone want to disagree with that?
Aren't there issues of liability and stuff like that?
We're giving a file to quote from, so why not just...
But if the file is wrong and you quote it, who pays for the equipment?
What it's saying with the drawing though?
Well, the drawing's got more judgment in it. I'm just being devil's advocate. Yeah.
We tell the fabricator to verify, which they do. And then there's a 3D model, so it makes it a lot easier to verify. And once they're happy, they take quantities off of it.
So they take responsibility for it.
They certainly find errors in them. And there was a situation actually in here where, out of the air handling unit, there was like an opening this big. How was that supposed to work?
Oh, I agree.
Bizarre. Magic. So unless they could go back and quote...
in a BIM world or metadata-driven world, then drawings are kind of old school and irrelevant anyway, so that...
I understand that.
Yeah, a lot more responsibility.
But you have to have some legal relationship or something political to allow you to be able to give information without people being liable for stuff like that.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's an area that is a concern.
Something called joint
and several liability, which can cost enormous amounts of money.
Well, otherwise big model disclaimers, you see that model, and you say that the drawings are the primary thing you have, and the model is only the supplement. So if you find an error, let us know.
See, that's the problem though, because people wait for the drawings. The model then becomes for information, and the contractual document is part of drawings. And this is the problem that we're all in the BIM level 1 world. Everyone wants the bloody paper, that's derived from the model, but the model doesn't count. It's like the model becomes an afterthought.
The judge says, look at the drawings. The judge say doesn't look at the model. So yeah, it's a political process. You've got to be just aware of that.
Absolutely. Unless it's just, they can challenge it, right? They were even afraid, this contractor was afraid to find out if they could get a 3D model of any
That'll
sort.
be probably why.
Also,
That will be part of the reason
Well, they're
why.
afraid of losing the business because they're going to provide a little bit more work for the other person to do to give them that model. Yeah, they were only one of maybe a dozen people quoting on the job, and it was very, very competitive. So yeah, it's
Is that in Australia?
Australia. It's in Perth actually.
Honestly, could you model without all the editing that goes into the part of the processing and application and all the stuff there? If you gave someone a BIM model, they'd be able to get the same amount of information from what they say, there's only one. I know, it's a advocate thing.
Yeah. Oh well. The idea is to tie all these things together, and has anyone seen this slide before? Familiar with this terminology? All the products are. So this is 2017 relevant. 2016 the lines were drawn in a slightly different area. You'd always rely on CAD and MEP for doing all the design and detail, and leave Revit for doing stuff outside the other, on the left-hand side of the chart. I'll talk about the future of what these products are going to likely to be. But this goes all the way through to actually keeping track of what's available on site and what's been installed already and making plans and going all the way back through. So, is anyone familiar with any of these products other than Revit? Yeah? Oh, we got one. Choice. So I'll just, as soon as you don't know about these products, I'll quickly show you what it looks like. And I'm no user of this product. I've just drawn some crap on the screen, okay? So it's just stuff, I don't know if it makes any sense or not, but just to show you what happens. So it looks good to you. If you click on one of these items, it tells you what they are, right? And you can stretch them and do what you're doing inside this product. I'm a manufacturer's background, so I actually don't deal with this product. But you'll notice here that if I highlight all these objects, actually I must have already converted these into manufacturable parts, but we can optimise all the lengths and it'll actually convert all these into segments at a 1400 line following my design criteria. So you'll find this under systems and your fabrication. And it brings up the toolbar. Now all these
Is this 17 only? Or is it?
yeah, this is 17 only. Yep. And so these items on the left-hand side are actually the fabrication database. So the fabrication database is for the CAD guys to generate models for the machines or for the generating spool pieces for piping. Electrical, we sort of leave that out, but it's a bit of a secret. And you can just click and place items out of the product catalogue and straight in here, but it's actually designed around services and specifications. So there's a lot of background work to build the database up and getting it working right, which is part of what the BIM MEP Oz thing is all about, is creating these standards that are common for Australian manufacturers.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
So once you've done this, can you then customize those parts that were created automatically, like where you've got that junction of the two elements joining with the T coming in? Would you be able to adjust that?
Yeah. I don't know if you can do it in this product, in Revit, but I'll certainly do it in the estimator or in Canada. And so when you've fluffed around with it in here, you can export this out as a image file. So under the add-ins, you'll see. Now, if you're in 2016 or earlier, 2015, I think, you can do this store design line elements, and they're storing graphic elements, and you can store those, and they go out as a RIF file, and they will import into the estimator. And that all it does is the centre line of, say, the ductwork or the pipework, and the sizes, and it changes all the way along. And when you reconstruct it in the estimator, it rebuilds it according to the fabrication data, which is level 400 or whatever you like to call it. So that's what it looks like there. And then when you go into, say, the estimator, you might open that job. and here it is sitting inside the estimating software. All I've done is just open it. Right? So, and now I can have a look at the costs estimates, all the way down to how much time it takes to make all these components. There's a whole list of
What
items in
product
here.
is this?
Sorry?
What product is this?
This one at the moment is SMEP. Fabrication. SMEP. It's sort of, it goes along with the CAD MEP and the CAM duct. They actually all use the same database. And you can go through and, you probably can't see that, but you can tell how all these things are made, whether they're purchased or they're manufactured, and there's a whole lot of structure in behind this. I'm going to run out of time if I'm not careful. But if you look at any one of these, you can look at the cost breakdown, and you can have a look at the cost of all the materials, all the ancillary materials, all the flanges, and you go for the actual cost to fabricate the parts, and then the installation times and the cost associated with it. Yeah.
2 questions.
Yeah.
People actually use this product at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This product actually started back in the early 80s before Autodesk did.
Really?
Yeah.
And so they're using the full functionality and producing everything.
Absolutely.
The other question would be pound symbol.
Sorry?
The pound symbol in front of the amounts.
Oh yeah, I just haven't changed my database. It's straight out of the box, right? It's English, right? It was MEP software for years and years and years out of the UK. Sold here by TSI in Australia, and then they pulled out. So we sort of left with their aftermath. Autodesk bought it, and they fell out, and there's a whole lot of history there. But it's still a very capable product.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure the prices are correct?
It's your job. You've got to maintain that. There's prices of materials, and there's prices of times associated with fabrication and installation, and you've got to make sense of that. Whether you work through the SMAC catalogue and work that way, it's all specification driven. So if you've got SMAC, you can use the American Imperial database, but everything's in inches. If you're using the metric one, it's English based, so it's DMV, whatever it is, 144 or something, whatever the standards are. Everyone changes it anyway. It depends on your processes, and you have different rates for different labour rates for different elements of the process. So that's what it does. It generates reports and quoting reports, and you can keep track of the process all the way through. So you can see things that are installed and not installed, and you can make progress payments, you can do variations and keep track of variations. So see what they're going to cost.
So the reality is the thing that we build in Revit, while it's geometrically accurate, doesn't really need to be. All we're really worried about is the centre line and the bounding box, if you like it. That's it. So the geometry can be quite simple.
Correct. You can keep it very simple. The pressure is to push all that data from this level of detail here that I'm showing you back into Revit. And that's what Autodesk are doing with the versions like 2017. You can see this level of detail now in 2017.
So is that because it visually looks better? Is that the main?
It's more modern, and it's just a drive. People want to do it.
But from an information point of view, it really makes no difference.
No.
No, but if you're handing out a Navisworks model, you want it to be graphically correct when you hand it on to the other disciplines in the food chain.
Isn't the challenge the fact that the consultant engineers will resist putting that level of detail into their models because they'll say, I just want to give you a sausage of ductwork.
Yep.
And because if I start to break this up into 1400mm bits, this is going to preclude some subby from pricing for it because he hasn't got a rig for that. Or, so they're not going to do that. I mean, what was the response to this?
It depends who the user is and where they are in that process as to what they need to do. And if you're talking about, well, a lot of guys here aren't involved in the MEP side, so they actually right at the very beginning, I only care the space that it takes up in the building. That's all I care about, really, where I might hang it from. Whereas as you go down the chain, you need the complete level of detail, and it's those guys that are further down the chain, whether they use Revit for doing the detailing or not. Now, the duct work, it's better off done in here, that level of detail. Pipe work, you can do it in Revit now, and with some of the decent content that's available, you can do all the spool pieces and everything. But that's not necessarily what you do at the beginning. It's somewhere down the path.
the back part only came in 2017, didn't it?
Yep.
And the idea was, it already said, well, after the subcontractors design the mechanical system, the architect and structural engineer and the main contractor, he wants to see what it ultimately is going to look like. Is there interference? Now, all those interference zones, they've actually been nailed down in mechanical ducting design. So I think it's really cool that we can actually send it back.
I agree.
Yeah.
I need to be able to walk through my building and see that the duct is in the right place and looks right.
Yeah, so it gives that confidence level.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, but I'm just thinking
designs.
if we're all sitting here thinking, great, I'm finally going to get a resolved design out of my consulting.
No, it's just not going to happen.
No, that's
It's
not
not going to
gonna
happen. They don't, and they shouldn't be doing it. They shouldn't be deciding what the flanges are.
No.
Not unless they need to specify it, and they might just put a note on the drawing, I want to use these, for whatever reason, I don't know.
Well, we all know what happens in the mechanical industry too, that the contract's awarded and often they'll redesign what the main
Exactly.
mechanical designer designed and say, oh, we can save $1 million by redesigning your mechanical system. And we've seen that plenty of times too.
So this is the same thing opened up in the cam ducts. This is the guy at the end that actually has to make the bits and pieces. And so just showing you that the whole workflow just holds together all the way to the very end. You'll see it's still got all the hangers and the tie rods and everything that are in here. And for them, all they do is they go, let's do a bit of automatic nesting. And there's nothing left to nest. Where have we got to? The job contents. And you can see all the sheets of material all laid out, all the insulation's laid out, all ready to cut. And the good fabrication shops do all this automatically. We've got a whole lot of CNC machines. They write all the NC files out for all these files, writes them all out, and it runs the machines. Okay? Who needs a drawing?
See, this is the thing.
We print all the labels out, stick them on the thing.
We carry on like BIM is the next thing. It's been around in the manufacturing industry for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's just the construction industry that's dragging us.
And these guys that are doing it in Auckland here, probably the best exponents of it would be Express Sheet Metals. They get to this point, they print out all their labels, they run an automatic process here, the setup process, and it writes the NC, it does the nesting, writes the NC files, and prints out all the reports. They print all the labels, so they go and stick them on all the bits of ductwork. When they go out to load the truck up, they scan the parts as they go into the truck, so they know they've gone on the truck. And when they're ready, they scan another little thing, and it pops out and puts in a report of what's gone on the truck. Turns up on site, and they've got a picture of what it looks like. Know where it goes. Right, so closing the whole circle. And that's the idea, is to going all the way from the rivet all the way through to actually putting the stuff in the building.
Does that bit of ductwork then have that capability to record that element in some sort of facility asset management, or even to go along with the bigger bits of kit that has got a barcode, it's got some sort of identification code, record it in a database later on. It's just sort of kept on going. You've got manufacturing and installation.
Yeah.
And following on through.
Absolutely. Now a lot of people, one of the processes there is exporting all the data out, just the CSVs, and taking it to whatever you want to do is for your management process afterwards. That's a bit of a broken thing, because that whole after the building's completed is sort of a crack, really.
Possibilities there, but
The technology's all there, all the nuts and bolts are there, it's just someone's got to go through and actually do it. And it'd probably justify it on a hospital or something, but it's on just ordinary buildings. I don't know. It's cool stuff that we show with the VR, where you walk around inside the building and you put the wall in, the cladding comes off and you can see all the stuff that's behind the wall. You talk on a pipe and, oh, that's the whole pipe. So you can do all that, but if you want to. So anyway, that's just my little demo. This takes like 2 weeks to teach, so I don't want to teach you about it. So I'll go back into my presentation. How am I doing for time?
you're good.
Yeah, you just tell me to stop before I start. I'm not going to carry on for long. The 2 days of the presentation, so I just wanted to know, you should know what we're talking about with this BIM MEP thing. So we had a lot of keynote speakers. A lot of them I thought were a bit of a waste of time. The guy from Dassault was just talked beautifully. It was very eloquent, a great presentation, but it was like talking to us 10 years ago about BIM. And I thought just what a waste of time. You missed your audience. Anyone heard presentations from either John Holland or Lane O'Rourke in Australia? Lane O'Rourke, quite interesting. They most of their projects now, they get the final contractors or the subcontractors involved at about 30% through the design process, and they pay them up front to be involved that early, and they solve a lot of the BIM problems. They're actually building a proper BIM model, and they keep it up to date all the way to the very end. It was interesting, quite refreshing. We don't see a lot of that here, but I guess everyone's trying. So on the first day we had this quite a long, good presentation about fabrication developments and the BIM MEP Oz group. Brendan from A2K, I don't know if anyone knows him, he's very, very good with Rivet families in the MEP space. So if you have the access to time to talk to him, he's a really good guy to go and pick his brain on. And he's helped all these other guys to put together this content, the Rivet content. So that was very good. They've been doing this for quite a few years, 3 years or so now. And the content is just coming out to the fabrication content as well. They're just releasing that in their latest version of their content. Quite a few of these people. D&E, can you see D&E on there? Air conditioning. They're quite a big contractor out of Melbourne, I think. Does anyone know them at all? They're doing a pretty good job in helping build all this content as well. JHA, they're trying to sell themselves, they're getting rid of themselves. They are, I guess they do similar to what you guys do here in Assemble. And they're trying to get rid of themselves because they think their job should be done by the main contractor. So, but they can't convince the main contractors to invest, because a lot of the guys that are managing the jobs of the main contractors are perhaps the wrong generation. Is that a good way of putting it? They just kind of missed the technology thing a little bit. Anyway, that was their experience. Probably the best presentation I saw of any of them was, well, there are two really, really good ones. One was from US Engineering. Obviously a very huge company doing stuff. But the big deal here was they had 4 silos of information that they had, and they had really disconnected workflows, as most people really appreciate, and they spent a lot of time and money pulling all the data together and creating dashboards inside SharePoint for everybody in the company to be able to see where the projects were at. And it was to do with everything. It was the BIM models, where the labour's at, where people are, it was everything. What had been invoiced, the whole process. And talk to me later if you want to know about that. They were outstanding what they've done and some of their failures as well.
So is that information they already had, but they just joined the dots?
Yeah.
And displayed it?
And their big drive really was that the operations should drive their changes in the business, and so they were focused on actually improving their business. And it was really quite refreshing. I made 5 points here. You said operations should drive good technology. Don't take for granted anything related to infrastructure. So they're talking about getting decent servers and decent hardware and doing stuff right. And don't take it for granted that you can get away with putting some cheap shit in just to fill the gaps. They formed a steering committee to make company decisions about technology, and the steering committee was full of people that were from all levels of the business. And they had plenty of failures where they, one was just job tracking, for example. He said they spent 60 grand on writing a job tracking thing that they did in the workshop to keep track of time, and the workshop staff wouldn't use it. And they just threw it away and got those guys involved from day one. They started again in week through the process and got those guys involved, and they committed to doing it. And whatever they came up with worked. And standardising the hardware, they found, because they're a big company, that they stopped people from bringing their own devices. They had one phone that they used for the company. Everyone used the same phone, everyone had the same computers, everyone had the same infrastructure. It was quite refreshing. And they saved their IT huge amounts of time and money. Yeah, and just remember the 80-20 rule, I suppose. So moving on, a talk from Steve Butler, who's the guy who's driving the technology at Autodesk at the fabrication side, and the stuff that you see, the MEP stuff you see inside Rivet. He's the guy that's influencing it all. And so what's happening with the products is the CAD MEP, which runs inside AutoCAD, is really just going in maintenance mode. So if you're dealing, I don't think we've got any CAD MEP users in the room, but if you're that product, stick on that product, but I don't expect it to improve. See the improvements in Rivet MEP instead. The estimator and the CAD map will carry on because they have really niche roles to play. Comfort Systems in the US, huge company. They've got, they're in 90 locations and 36 factories, so they're just, scale is unbelievable really. They have 250,000 line items in their database of things that they make and use, and they do all the pipe work and the duct work. And we had a really interesting presentation from Grundfos. As you can see, that the Rivet content on the little pretty picture on the left hand side, that's what it used to be. You probably can't see, but these files were typically 1.5 megabytes each, and you download them. They're beautiful models, but you couldn't use them really, they're just too heavy. And so they've built themselves an engine that generates Rivet files for BIM files of various formats, and they tend to be about 300 or 400K. So, and they're a lot more, and they've got levels of detail in them. So much better models. And then there was a discussion. He's heard of ClearEdge. Anyone use point clouds? Yeah. Anyone using ClearEdge stuff? ClearEdge 3D? Yeah. It was interesting. It's one of that point cloud to real geometry type thing, and trying to create BIM models out of point clouds. And yeah, it was an interesting discussion, but I wouldn't get too excited about it. It's one of those things it sounds good in theory, but not necessarily in practice. Anyway, that was my talk. I've gone 10 minutes over time, but it started 10 minutes late, I guess.
So, the response to the does anyone use point clouds? Who has used or been involved with point clouds? Would point cloud to modelling be something that would be of interest, or is it just being sort of thrown out thinking that it's just a waste of time? Thoughts?
Yes. We use software to reconstruct surfaces from point clouds, but that coupled with photogrammetry, because then you get an idea of where it was taken from. And if you do that, and once you've got a surface, you can actually work with it better than just having a point cloud. So we find that a bit easier. So creating meshes from a point cloud and then actually bringing it into Revit instead of just using the point cloud. In civil space again, point clouds are very useful for area scans because you can remove vegetation and vehicles and things like that and turn it into a surface. So yeah.
So you've got that step between point cloud to modelling to create a surface that you then use.
Yeah.
The problem invariably though is that you need to add intelligence at some point of the way, and if you're the guy behind the desk in the office and you get a point cloud dropped in your lap, you can turn it into a beam, but in order to add intelligence, you can't subvent the as-built process where you actually go to site with your notepad and your camera and you have a look at that. And so that's the part of it that's missing.
That as-built aspect comes after the sort of design process, though, doesn't it?
Sorry, existing conditions.
For existing conditions.
That's right, prior to design kick-off. And that's where a lot of architects particularly get themselves cornered because they say, right, well I need to know what's in that floor. Well, the bloody scanner doesn't know what's in a floor, or in a wall, or on the other side of the ceiling.
Surface, but that's it.
That's right, it's a dumb entity, you've got a void space, that's it, go.
But does it give you information sort of physical location information that will then help you. You can then add that information afterwards, or it's just
Well, not really, because it's double-handed.
yeah.
So it's-
The best thing you can do with a point cloud is use it as a reference tool for measuring. So that's the best thing you can do with it. ClearEdge has some cool tools for turning some of the model geometry into real geometry.
I worked with
And you
that
can
stuff for a
actually-
year, ClearEdge.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
Because it raises,
Yeah, like-
every piece of geometry then has a number of questions behind it.
exactly.
That you need to answer.
Yeah.
And you end up, servicing the software.
And the best you do is about 60%. And then you've got to do manually. I've got this idea where they can turn up the area of the point cloud into an object. Well, it could be an object. You could say this is going to be a beam, and that's about it.
But then you have to pre-program what
Yeah.
beams you assume you'll find.
Yep.
And once again, existing conditions, you take measure out, measure on.
So does it come back to just using it for a more simplistic, basic location, but you're putting the specific beam size, a bit more accurate information in, so you're using less of the point cloud because you're having to put more information in? Is that
Well, it's a superior form of surveying, if you like, because a surveyor might shoot 500 shots in this room. And you imagine a 500 shot wireframe DWG of this room. You would have no chance in modelling that. So the point cloud gives you an ability to actually say, oh, okay, it looks like a cable tray. It looks to be about 450. I'll plug that in for now. There's a beam, looks like a UV 360. I'll go with that for now. So it gives you really coarse geometry to start with,
it's a start that you then need to refine on site?
if you need to refine it.
Where the point cloud part comes in the process, it happens on site once the building is done. So yeah, so you get progress across that, you get great references, so that's what's actually happening to the right or the wrong.
And with existing drawings as well.
Yeah, so they're good for references, we'll pound it to link in, as you said, we still have to be the brain behind it.
There's a bit of academic gluttony there where people go, sweet, got a point cloud, now I know everything about the site, let's have it. Really, we don't.
No,
We got a
exactly.
point cloud.
But we worked
It's
with
just the
recently.
cloud points.
The thing was inaccurate. We were running out by 7 mils in the elevator shaft. It was inaccurate.
I suppose it has its advantages and its uses to a point where I suppose we can't expect too much from the point cloud. Maybe the point cloud to modelling in some instances okay, in other instances.
It's interesting to see what the software vendors have done, or more importantly, not done. So we've seen no progress in the last 4 years on point cloud tools to do IA-based things such as object recognition. I think the market has indicated the usefulness of what point clouds are, and so you've seen no real step change in 4 or 5 years now, since things like ClearEdge came out and other tools, because I think the market's actually worked out how they want to use point clouds. And I think the key is, at what stage is the point cloud being used? Is it there as renovation work? Is it there as a progress reporting? And that deformation study, all those sorts of things. I think that's where point clouds are useful. I do think though there will be some kind of markup language come out in the future that will allow you to in effect simulate objects based around something being on top of the point cloud, think of it that way, so it's tagged. And because one of the problems we've got coming is you look at historical asset owners with old buildings, they have a real problem in trying to get those things into FM systems. So the current choice is to sit there and model them in Revit. What a expensive, dramatic exercise that is. To put a scanning technology and then attribute a collection of points with metadata is actually far more achievable. One of the things you can do with point clouds, you can do character recognition with point clouds. So things like fixture numbers, letters, room numbers on doors, wards. So I think there will be some changes in there, how thinking of the Google Street View technology and how Google has attributed the Street View. And that's really where think we'll see real usefulness for them. Yeah, like